Oksana anxiously awaited the day, aware that Alexei would be returning to the city. She hoped that after some time apart, he would have cooled down and be open to talking. Olga, staying with Oksana in her friend's house, shared her worries. She believed that if Oksana reconciled with her husband, the same would happen with Nicholas. Despite this, they noticed that since the fight at the restaurant, the men had been avoiding them and seemed reluctant to be in their company. Taking the day off from work as a pretense, they found themselves fortunate enough to settle into their routine, although they couldn't ignore the strange behavior of the men around them. As Friday progressed, Olga received a call from Nikolai's neighbor. "Olga, I saw a man with a suitcase enter your yard," the neighbor informed her. Nikolai greeted him on the porch. They embraced and went inside. He took a taxi. An hour later, Oksana was surprised by a knock at the door. Opening it, she found a man in civilian clothing introducing himself as a police officer. "We've received information that your husband has returned from prison," he explained. "We wanted to make sure you're all right." "I'm not sure," Oksana replied. "As far as I know, he's staying with his friend Nikolai." The police officer then asked about the ownership of the house. "It's my house, but I didn't kick him out. If you see him, tell him to come over," Oksana replied. After verifying Nikolai's address, the police officer left. Shortly after, Vladimir Ivanovich received a phone call. "I'm listening," he answered. "We found him," the voice on the other end stated. "He's been staying at his friend's place. We'll be at the address in 5 minutes. Don't do anything yet," Vladimir Ivanovich instructed. "We've lost track of the girls." "What girls?" the voice inquired. "That's not your concern. It seems Alexei is involved as well. I'll gather more men. We need to apprehend him alive. We can handle it ourselves," the voice responded. "By ourselves?" Even when in rage, a dozen men couldn't stop him. "That's enough. Stay back. Wait." Vladimir contemplated how to handle the situation with precision, realizing that Andrei was the mastermind behind it all, and he had no means of protection against him. Calling his connections in the prosecutor's office was also out of the question, as they could potentially betray him. Nevertheless, Vladimir had nothing left to lose. After careful consideration, he reached out to one of the leaders from the militant group he had established authority over. Minty arrived promptly, and Vladimir explained his plan. "Listen, I need you to retrieve 2 addresses for me and bring them outside the city, to the ruins of the old factory." Minty inquired, "And what's there?" "I need to find out where they've hidden the girls, Varia and Dasha. Once you've obtained that information, you can do whatever you please with them." Minty responded, "Volodya, you're no longer interested in girls. That's none of your concern. Here's the money. Consider it an advance payment." Minty raised another question, "And the rest?" "You'll receive twice as much once you've disposed of them, and provided me with the address where the girls are being held." Meanwhile, Alexei and Nikolai sat at the kitchen table, vodka and snacks untouched, as darkness loomed outside. Suddenly, the phone rang. Alexei glanced at the caller ID. It was Andrei Stepanovich. He answered with caution, "I'm listening." Andrei warned them, "Take your friend and leave immediately. The local gang is on their way with 2 mercenaries. Hide in the cottage with the girls." Alexei contemplated, "Shouldn't we fight back and risk ending up in jail?" "I told you to leave before it's too late," Andrei advised. However, it had become a race against time. Minty entered the yard through the gate, accompanied by the 2 men Alexei had spotted on the train. A car was conveniently parked near the gate, and other individuals were present as well. Alexei and Nikolai hurriedly dressed, just as the bandits began knocking at the door. Nikolai, acting as the head of the household, responded calmly, "Just a moment, I'm on my way." He discreetly gestured to Alexei to follow him, and they slipped out through a door on the opposite side of the house that led into the vegetable garden. They made their way quickly towards the fence, their footprints etched in the fresh snow. As they walked, Nikolai inquired, "What's our plan?" Alexei replied, "In the spirit of Spartacus, let the fastest one catch up and subdue him, and then deal with the rest." Before long, there was a heavy stomping sound behind Alexei and Nikolai. It was the tall Minty, who surprisingly moved swiftly and found himself on the receiving end of Alexei's fist. Minty's accomplice, Pilot, and another comrade came to a halt, and Pilot produced a knife, rushing towards Alexei. The knife struck Alexei in the shoulder, but in a remarkably synchronized move, both Alexei and Nikolai landed powerful blows to Pilot's jaw, rendering him unconscious. Pilot's partner hastily retreated, and Minty's team chose not to pursue them. Alexei clutched his wounded shoulder, and after covering around 200 meters, they reached the highway. Luckily, they managed to flag down a passing car whose owner paid little attention to the fact that one of its passengers was injured. For a modest fee, the driver dropped them off at their requested location. After switching vehicles and finally boarding a bus, they arrived at a cottage. There, they were assigned a private room. Alexei's wound was cleaned and bandaged, with Dasha taking the lead and Varia and Nikolai assisting. Nikolai inquired, "Alexei, why did that happen?" Andrei Stepanovich asked in surprise. "I didn't see the knife until it was too late. He was aiming for my neck," Alexei explained. Andrei Stepanovich listened attentively as Alexei shared the details of their escape. Concerned, he asked, "How badly are you injured?" Alexei reassured him, "I'll be fine. Dashka already helped me with the bandage." Andrei Stepanovich revealed that he had a contact who had informed him of the situation and ensured that no one would come after them. Alexei inquired about the attacker, known as Pilot. Andrei Stepanovich informed him that Pilot was a dangerous operative who worked with a partner, but they had left him behind with a broken jaw. Andrei Stepanovich emphasized the need for safety and instructed Alexei to live quietly. Meanwhile, Pilot's partner called Vladimir Ivanovich, reporting his injured condition and seeking guidance. Angrily, Vladimir scolded his subordinate, instructing him to take Pilot to the hospital and come up with an excuse for his injuries. After hanging up, Vladimir called Maitem to express his frustration. Maitem defended himself, claiming that he was not aware of the true nature of the target. He shared that his boyfriend had witnessed a brutal fight involving Pilot in the detention center, where he nearly killed everyone before the guards intervened. Maitem promised to fulfill the task he was given but highlighted that his men were not responsible for the violence. When Vladimir asked about Alexei and Nikolai's whereabouts, Maitem admitted his lack of knowledge, only remembering waking up in the car and being told that one of them was injured. Vladimir Ivanovich ended the call and pondered his predicament. He realized that he was in trouble yet again, and without finding a way to sway Andrei Stepanovich, the consequences would soon catch up with him. How everything had seemed so perfect before. He should never have organized that ill-fated business trip. Instead of ensuring everything ran smoothly during working hours, they had insisted on something exotic. A whole week of planning had gone into it, resulting in a substantial loss of money, 2 lost companies, and even a divorce. To add insult to injury, his wife had managed to steal from his hidden offshore accounts. He needed to make a decision, but he had no idea what to do. Andrei Stepanovich sat at his desk, feeling triumphant. It had all worked out for him, thanks to the lawyer he had hired. Alexander Sergeyevich had turned out to be relentless and thorough in his work, even though he wasn't privy to all the details. He had no clue about the whereabouts of Andrei Stepanovich's granddaughters or the existence of the cottage. With the final phase of his release approaching, they only needed to apprehend a few high-ranking officials who had assisted Vladimir Ivanovich in falsifying documents. Oksana suggested to Olga, "Why don't we go visit Nikolai ourselves and risk being turned away at his doorstep?" "No, I won't budge until he reaches out to me," Olga replied. "Alexei hasn't even bothered sending you a letter. He didn't even speak directly to you during the court proceedings. It was all done through his lawyer, and he rejected any contact. I just want to talk to him. I'll call a cab, and we can go there and come back," Oksana insisted. "Hold on, let me call my neighbor and see what she thinks," Olga said, dialing her neighbor's number. A large crowd gathered to see Nikolai, but they quickly scattered. One person was carried away in a car, while another dragged their injured friend. Olga questioned if Nikolai had been present, but there was no sign of him or any lights in their house. With this realization, Olga told her friend that there was no reason for them to go. Concerned, her friend wondered if something terrible had happened. Olga reassured them, saying that Alexei must have scared them off with a beating. However, she also expressed her confusion, as it had been 10 days since the incident and Alexei had been bedridden ever since. Dasha, meanwhile, sat and conversed by his side. In the kitchen, Varia and Nikolai continued their activities, cooking and discussing their own matters. The household help had left, only returning in the morning to inquire about their shopping needs before disappearing again. Then, after 10 days, there was a visitor at the door. Varia eagerly greeted the person and embraced them. It was Andrei Stepanovich, announcing his release from custody. He informed them that there would still be a trial, but he was confident of complete rehabilitation. Andrei Stepanovich approached Alexei in his room and thanked him for his granddaughters. The sudden turn of events had caught everyone off guard, and Andrei Stepanovich mentioned that he had been preparing for this outcome for years. Kolya had expressed the need to return to work, while Varia had to register with the police. Andrei Stepanovich assured them that the search for them was over, as the attention had shifted to Vladimir Ivanovich. He shared that he knew Vladimir's whereabouts, but it was no longer his concern. Furthermore, he offered Kolya the opportunity to return to his previous job and for them to live in the house he had purchased as a safe haven. However, Alexei expressed his reluctance to go to the hospital due to a knife wound, fearing for his safety and the need to recover first. "Don't worry, there will be someone to take care of you." Andrei Stepanovich, caught up with business, initially planned to take his granddaughters back to their town, but then reconsidered and decided they should stay. He assured them, "I will arrange for you to be let go from your job there and bring you your workbooks. We'll give up the apartment, since it was on an open-ended lease. You can stay here for now." True to his word, the following day a man came to examine the wound and reassured them, saying, "There's nothing wrong. The wound is clean and has been treated properly. It will heal with time. Just dress it regularly and it will be completely healed in 2 weeks. I will come by to check on you." And so it happened. Nikolai returned home, but made it a point to stop by every evening to check on Alexei. One day, he shared some news, saying, "Listen, Oksana found me here and asked to meet you." Alexei replied, "I'm not like a government official. I don't need to request a meeting. But do I even want to see her? I've already forgotten about her. If she calls, tell her I'm out of town. However, we should talk. After all, I didn't get a divorce all that time I was in jail. Maybe that's why she wants to meet." Nikolai responded, "No, she and my Olga want to meet us to try and win us back. But unlike you, I did divorce Olga. And today, I have other plans." Curious, Alexei asked, "What are they?" Nikolai smiled and shared, "While you were sick, I talked to Varia and realized that we are soulmates. We have the same interests and even share the same cooking habits. I think she's coming to live with me." Excitedly, Alexei inquired, "When will she move in?" Nikolai confidently stated, "I'm proposing to her today, although it's pretty much a formality at this point." Alexei offered some advice, saying, "If I were you, I'd propose to Grandpa first." Nikolai chuckled, replying, "That's exactly what I'm waiting for." Confused, Alexei asked, "Waiting for what?" Nikolai explained, "He's coming to visit us tonight." Immediately, Alexei exclaimed, "Then we better set the table." Finally, he questioned, "Will Dasha do the dressing? What activities are available?" First, tend to the wound by removing the Band-Aid, cleansing it with iodine, and covering it. It has healed and become a scar. Today, the doctor examined it and advised against engaging in work that involves such injuries. Andrei Stepanovich arrived, bearing gifts for his granddaughters. He placed whiskey on the table and, addressing Alexei, remarked, "I know you don't drink, but that's your personal choice." Vladimir Ivanovich's body was found today, following a difficult demise. So I'm raising a toast to celebrate. He was responsible for the demise of my granddaughter's parents. However, during his final moments, he confessed everything to me. To whom did he reveal the information? Someone asked. I don't know. I only possess the videotape, I replied. Furthermore, you are free to resume your work tomorrow if you wish. I spoke to the doctor, although it is not mandatory. Andrei Stepanovich, Nikolai wants to speak with you, someone interjected. Regarding what matter? Andrei Stepanovich inquired. I conversed with Varia, and we made the decision that she will come and live with me, Nikolai elucidated. So you are proposing to her? Andrei Stepanovich probed. Yes, that is correct, Nikolai affirmed. We should have started not with that, but rather like in the old days, where you are the commodity and we are the merchant. Andrei Stepanovich exclaimed. Pour the drinks, including for the wounded individual. Furthermore, I'm afraid the days of my consent dictating your actions are over. And regardless of what I say, you will do things your way. Did you at least bring a ring for your fiancé? Andrei asked. Yes, I did, Nikolai replied. Well, I am happy for you, Andrei Stepanovich responded. Varia, what have you decided? He inquired. I agree. I have already packed my belongings, Varia confirmed. By the way, tomorrow they will deliver the remaining items to the rented apartment. I hope you will handle everything there yourself. Everyone except Nikolai drank, but when asked why he abstained, he replied, I'm driving and I have to take my bride home. I have champagne ready and a table set for two. You're not inviting me? Someone asked. Not today, Nikolai responded. The next morning, the movers arrived with the belongings. Alexei assisted them in unloading and then went to his company's office. He headed straight to the director, who greeted him with excitement. Well, you finally appeared, the director exclaimed. You're already a legend in the region. What legends? Alexei questioned. About how you built a 5-story house in record time, the director explained. It's not my merit, Alexei humbly replied. Labor was cheap and the management had a strong interest. They couldn't afford to let the allocated money go unused. It would have been detrimental to some people. Nevertheless, it's impressive, the director acknowledged. And because of your experience, we won 2 contracts in the bidding process. 2 apartment buildings right next to each other. That's great, Alexei said, but then inquired about the necessary design documents, permits, and approvals. They're all in order, the director assured him. Our project team is studying them, providing feedback, and selecting materials. Work is in full swing. The next day, Alexei began his work. Dasha also found employment in the same company as an economist. In the midst of their busy schedules, Alexei managed to meet with Alexander Sergeyevich, who had become a respected businessman. During their conversation, Alexei asked, How can I get a divorce? Can you recommend a competent lawyer? I assume you're no longer practicing law. That's correct, Alexander answered. I'm no longer practicing, but I can certainly advise you. I'll talk to someone first and then set up an appointment for you. Haven't you filed for a divorce yet? I haven't had the time, Alexei confessed. Not even in the detention center, Alexander inquired. It didn't cross my mind there, Alexei replied. It's a different world, as you said. One morning, Andrei Stepanovich arrived at the cottage bright and early, while Alexei and Dasha were still fast asleep. It came as no surprise to him that they were sharing a bed. Andrei settled himself in the kitchen and began preparing breakfast. As the aroma of coffee wafted through the air and the sounds of his kitchen activities reached their ears, Alexei and Dasha finally woke up and made their way downstairs. Andrei greeted them with a playful remark. You two sleep like logs. I couldn't wake you up even if I tried. Grandpa, we went to bed really late last night, Alexei explained. I see, so are we going to have 2 weddings? Andrei teased. No, I haven't even gone through with the divorce yet, Alexei replied. I've just started the paperwork for the court. Why bother with the court? We can get it done at the registry office, Dasha suggested. That's actually an option I'm considering as well. Alexander Sergeyevich recommended a lawyer to me, Alexei shared. I see he mentioned it to me too. I had no idea that you and Dashka were working things out. Now I understand why she wanted to work at the same firm as you, Andrei said. By the way, your wife is looking for you. Just thought you should know. Instantly, Olga received a phone call informing her that Nikolai, Alexei, and 2 women were sitting in the same restaurant where the scandal had occurred. Without wasting any time, Olga immediately called her friend, and soon both she and Oksana entered the establishment. As they scanned the room, their eyes fell upon the group sitting at a table. Alexei also noticed his wife and Olga, and quickly warned his companions. Oksana skillfully weaved through the tables and approached them, skipping the formalities and directing her words at Alexei. So, the warriors are reminiscing about the old days, the battles they fought together. Oksana said, her tone laced with sarcasm. You're twisting things a bit. According to the investigation, I fought alone. Alexei defended himself. And you couldn't find the time to come to me when you were free to talk things over. Oksana questioned. What was there to talk about? Alexei responded. Perhaps it would have been easier for you to send a lawyer with divorce papers, Oksana suggested. That's actually a reasonable approach given the circumstances, Alexei replied. Don't you want to hear me out? Oksana pressed on. You attended a neighborhood audit for 2 days, but when I tried to clarify the purpose of the audit on Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, you didn't provide any explanation. However, the late director Vladimir Ivanovich clearly informed me that you went there to take a break. Moreover, the case file revealed that you rented 2 rooms for a vacation. Alexei, I admit my mistake and won't repeat it. Of course you won't, especially not with me. I must emphasize how generous I am in granting you a divorce. I am leaving you everything, including the car. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive me? You know I forgive you, but that doesn't mean we can be together. I'm tired of trying to make you understand that I don't want to be with you, and all the troubles between us are a consequence of your actions. It was you, not me, who ruined everything good we had. And now, here you are, the two of you, making a decision together, whether to go on a so-called business trip or not. And you made that decision. You could have just said no. Why did you agree? We were offered a promotion. To climb the career ladder, one needs knowledge. Unfortunately, I noticed that you lacked a solid foundation. However, I wasn't concerned about your earnings. I thought you would realize the importance of educating yourself and filling in the gaps in your studies. But you chose a different path. But can we talk about this? What is there to talk about? I have other interests and a different life, and you have no place in it. You only have yourself to blame for that. All right, let's meet outside the registry office on Tuesday and make a statement. What time? 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, it's a deal. I will give you your car, as I don't need it anyways. You can sell it if you want, but I can't do it without your consent, and honestly, I don't really want to. Oksana and Olga left the restaurant without saying goodbye. Once they were on the street, Olga asked, "Why did you make that decision?" Oksana replied, "No, Olya, there's nothing else we can do. He gets violent and can't be controlled. We know what he's capable of." A month later, Alexei and Oksana finalized their divorce. In the epilogue, Andrei Stepanovich transferred the cottage to his granddaughter Dasha. Alexei registered his address with his ex-wife, and 6 months after their wedding, it was announced that Dasha was expecting a child. Nikolai and Varia also got married earlier and were happily expecting a baby. Andrei Stepanovich was pleased that Alexei and Nikolai stayed away from criminal activities, but he warned them during a private conversation, "I may bend the rules, but I'd never break them. However, I can't escape the system entirely." Oksana also found companionship with an accountant from the firm she audited and started living with him. Olga also moved on, actively searching for a wealthy husband, whom she eventually found, despite the age difference. When Oksana questioned Olga's choice, Olga simply replied, "Oksana, love is like fish without taste. Plus, he has a cottage. I don't need to rely on you anymore."